Let's kick off our international news hour in the United States of America. Poor boy, another year this week in American politics. Anna Mancuso is a political analyst based in New York and has been following it all blow by blow, no doubt. Marianne, I mean, what a couple of days for you to get your teeth into. I wonder if we go back to the beginning a little bit on this, Marianne. We've got a bit of time to dwell on this story and to talk about it and to give it the fullness of time. So let's do that for those who perhaps haven't been watching the United States so closely from over here in the United Kingdom. The FBI raid Donald Trump's retreat in Florida. What next?
Well, I want to be clear. It was not necessarily a raid.
Yes,
it was a legally executed search.
That's a really good point, because that's their terminology. That's Trump's terminology, isn't it?
There's been so many conspiracy theories and things that are being talked about regarding the search at Mar-a-Lago, and I have to be very clear that it was not a raid. It was, in fact, a lawful search, and it was executed with a search warrant that was issued by a federal magistrate judge.
Yeah, good point well made.
The other thing that we have to really note about here is that no one, not even a former president in the United States of America, is above the law. And that right now, this is actually fueling the party polarization that we're seeing in America, unfortunately, which I'm sure that you guys are watching from across the pond. And some people are saying that this actually could help gin up Trump's 2024 run, and it could actually fuel him to announce sooner than he had anticipated. And we could see a possible announcement coming with the beginning of September.
Okay, we'll come back to that point in a sec, and how on earth a search, an FBI search on this guy's property fuels a run for a second term. Let's talk about what they found. Sketchy detail, I guess, still around this, but as we understand it, 11 classified documents found at Trump's house. What were they, as we understand it?
Well, we have this unsealed warrant, and so now we're able to see exactly what they took, which you had mentioned with some classified documents. And this isn't surprising. If you remember, when Trump was leaving 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, where the president resides in Washington, D.C., it was speculated that he was taking classified material out of the White House, which is a huge no-no for any president. You are not allowed to take that with you. And he did take it with him. And so now they are taking that. And at some point, there's now all sort of speculation that is swirling around saying that he may possibly be investigated in terms of espionage or treason act.
Okay, we'll come back to that in a minute as well, because that's really important. Do we know any more? We know that they were classified. Do we know any more? And I suppose the nature of them being classified might mean that we don't. Do we know any more about what those documents were? Might be a stupid question. That's a stupid question. It's a stupid question.
Right. No, we mean it's classified. However, I think it's also really important to note that I have the utmost confidence in the Department of Justice and the system that is moving forward. And this is a massive move, and we have to be sure that it is right and that Trump does have rights and that justice will take time. You know, in America, I'm sure that you guys have similar things over there. And if you don't, please let me know how you don't. But we have this instant gratification problem, right? Where we want immediate responses. We want justice today. And that is not what this is. Justice is a marathon. It is not a sprint. And it will take time to get answers, and it will take time for justice to be delivered.
Do you know what we also have? A little bit here, but certainly a problem within in America, I think, is not just instant gratification, although that's very true, but people having basically made their mind up before the process. And actually that kind of swings in both directions, I must admit. You know, if you're critical of Trump, I mean, Garrett's just nailed on that this guy was doing something terrible with this. He has brought the office into disrepute, has put national security at risk, etc. That is absolutely nailed on. I think you will. I don't think you'll find a Democrat in America who's willing to be open-minded to the idea that Donald Trump might have accidentally stuffed them into his suitcase on the 20th of January by accident. But I think perhaps more troubling is the other side of this argument, which is that people have already decided that he is not guilty of whatever it is he's being investigated for, right? Just really, really entrenched views on these kind of issues.
That's really kind of the problem right now in America's political system, is we're seeing both sides. You have one side that has already, basically convicted him in their minds. He's guilty, there's no judicial process, that justice needs to happen, and that we don't need time for the process to work, when that's actually the antithesis of everything that the Department of Justice stands for, which is this takes time. You have to go through a process. You can't just show up one day and be like, oh, you're guilty. Meanwhile, on the right, we have people that are saying that this is political persecution. I've seen a meme being tossed around through social media of the picture of former President Trump in black and white. And it says, they're after me but not really. They want you. I'm just in the way. And that is how the far right really feels, that this is political persecution. As a matter of fact, we've seen that the Republican National Committee has fundraised millions of dollars off of this in the wake of the search at Mar-a-Lago last Monday evening. And this is just showing no signs of slowing down. It's continuing to fuel both sides. And as we look to the midterm elections here in America, which will take place in November, it is really anyone's game. But at the end of the day, I would not be shocked if we see a Republican red wave sweep the country yet again.
Because the former Republican president had classified documents at his Florida retreat. Not just in spite of that, but
he's
because
politically
of that.
Persecuted, which is what the Republicans are saying, is that he is being wrongfully accused that that search was a raid and that the FBI has become politicized and that now we must defund the police and defund the FBI. It's probably the craziest thing I have ever seen and Americans have seen since Watergate. And we remember how that happened. The disgraced President Richard Nixon stepped down. He knew that he was going to be convicted of Watergate, which was a scandal where he had people that were working for his reelection campaign in 1972 to break into DNC headquarters because he was so paranoid and wanted to ensure that he would be reelected. And he saw the writing on the wall, and Richard Nixon stepped down. Donald Trump sees the writing on the wall and leans in and fundraises off of it. I'm telling you, it's the craziest thing I've seen in American politics, and I've been doing this for a while.
Yeah, it is extraordinary, isn't it? Truly extraordinary. Mariana, take us into the process then, because there is going to be a process now. The investigation is underway, I assume, and what kind of consequences, how would that work, and what kind of consequences could they result in for Donald Trump?
Right about now, I can tell you that I'm not an attorney, nor am I a judge. So I can't tell you what the process is going to look like. But what I can say is that this is going to be a long time. We are not going to have a decision tomorrow. We're not going to have a decision in 2 weeks. It is going to take a lot of time to unpack everything that they have retrieved from Mar-a-Lago, figure out what all of this means, and then go forward. But I can tell you that at no point in American history have we ever had a president convicted of treason or espionage.
And so that's possible. A conviction for treason and espionage is possible.
I mean, who knows, right? Anything is possible at this point in time because I'm telling you, we've never seen anything like this in American history. It's been the craziest thing in American politics. And I'll tell you that when I think about future generations having to study the history books from the year of 2020 to 22 in American history, I feel for those children that will be tested on this because we have gone through so much history alone in this country in 2 years than I've seen in the past 15 easy.
But literally, I mean, is there anything about him being president that allows him a level of immunity?
No, because he's no longer president.
Or having been president?
No, he's not. He is not protected, and nor is he able to give himself a presidential pardon. So that's something else that happens here, and I'm not sure if you guys have that when it comes to Parliament, but the president can offer pardons, but the president cannot pardon himself. Another president, for example, Joe Biden, could pardon former President Donald Trump, but do I see that happening? No, I really don't.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. Mariana, take us into the Republican Party here. This is your party. You by the way, for the avoidance of doubt, or your former party, you sort of actively detached yourself. This is your part of, or it's your team, and you're part of the political divide. So let's, you're not a Democrat. You're a lifelong Democrat who's got a vengeance here. You're somebody who is sort of sympathetic to the cause, but very critical of the means and the individuals. Is there a possibility? I mean, help me understand that. Is there a possibility that actually there are vast numbers of people in the Republican Party and in the leadership in the Republican Party who they all actually think that this guy is totally unhinged and unfit for office, and that this is a major scandal and a complete completely unacceptable turn of events, but they're not saying it because they think that the person next to them doesn't think that, and they're all sort of trying to keep face. Is there a point at which the Republican Party turns around and goes, actually, this is a bit too much, isn't it? We're kidding ourselves here.
I have waited for that moment, and every time I think we've gotten to that line where a Republican leader will stand up and say, this is not appropriate. We are not doing this. We are going to turn our back on former President Trump, and we are going to find another leader. And it doesn't happen. So, for example, January 6th, I thought that was the opportune moment. Speaker Kevin McCarthy went down to Mar-a-Lago. He kissed the ring and did a complete 180. Now here we are, we see the lawful search of Mar-a-Lago, and Republicans are like, yeah, like he could run again. We'll raise some money. Let's do this. And I am continually astounded by a party that I have worked over a decade for to elect Republicans up and down the ballot. I mean, I'm not just talking national races, I'm talking state races, local races, that I have worked to elect them to office, to see them cower at former President Trump and say, it's okay, and just be a yes man and allow him, as well as other extremists within the Republican Party, to serve under that party banner and claim that party as their own. It's astounding. And at this point in time, the best that we can hope for is that he does not receive the nomination in 24. And if that happens, then we're looking at a potential Governor Ron DeSantis from Florida becoming the Republican nominee. And at this point in time, you have to pick your poison with the Republican Party. But it doesn't look like they really have any other candidates that are willing to stand up for the rule of law in this moment.
Just briefly, Mariana, I've got to get to a break, but can you just give us a bit of context as to what those people who are falling in line behind Trump here, and her pointing to this as being, a big conspiracy and deep state, and Trump's on the right side of history here. How are they justifying that? The discovery of 11 classified documents at Mar-a-Lago. How are they justifying that?
Well, they're turning around and saying, do you remember Hillary's emails? That's what their talking point is. Let's talk about Hillary's emails. Hillary's house wasn't searched, and that's where they're pivoting to. But even more damning than that, which is astounding to me, is the fact that they are literally just turning a blind eye, and they won't speak out because they don't want to lose the potential for his endorsement or the possibility to fundraise off his name. And at the end of the day, the Republican Party has become the party that will do anything to win. That is all that they care about, is winning elections. They don't care about integrity, and they don't care about putting country over party.
Right, so it isn't necessarily the case that they are creating a different narrative, that what's been found here aren't classified documents, or they are the classified documents that prove what Q and in the QAnon movement's been talking about, and Trump's taken them out of the White House because he cares so much about the cause and all that stuff. They're just not talking about it or exercising whataboutery and continuing to talk about Hillary's emails.
Oh, the conspiracy theories have all sorts of crazy things that they're talking about. They're saying that, oh, well, that was evidence that was planted. The FBI planted that information. That really wasn't there. It's crazy. I am continually astounded by the conspiracy theories that get kicked up when things like this happen, but they are saying that former President Trump is nothing more than he is under political persecution because he's doing everything that nobody else thinks that a politician should be. He is not your average politician. Meanwhile, 70% of Americans are looking for an alternative here, right? They're saying, we've interviewed people that are supporting Trump, and they're saying the same thing. I would love for him to run again, but I don't think he should win. I don't think he can. And that to me is astounding, because those people are not the ones that are driving the Republican Party. They are members of the party, and they are literally being drowned out by the noise of the conspiracy theorists and extremists that are living under that banner.
Okay, and repeat, and repeat, and repeat. We've been here before. We'll be here again. Mariana, we'll analyse it all as it happens. Really nice to talk to you tonight. Thank you so much for your time. Anna Mancuso, who is a political analyst based in New York, and that astounding story from America and its astounding themes. Okay, we move on in our international news hour. Next to Afghanistan. A year ago tomorrow, Kabul fell into the hands of the Taliban. The 20-year war was over and effectively lost by the West. Since then, there's been not only a political crisis, but a humanitarian crisis in play in the Middle East. We'll get to that next on TalkTV. Stick around.